Led by NL MVP Ronald Acuña Jr., the Atlanta Braves had the best outfield in all of baseball in 2023, but I'll tell you why it could be even better in 2024 on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at ShortstopBall. Also, make sure you check out some of my written work over at bravestoday.com. Make sure you follow the podcast on social media at LockedOn_Braves. Send in any questions, comments, or feedback you have for the podcast. If you're new on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We're up over 9,200 subscribers, trying to get to 10K by opening day. You can help me get there by hitting that thumbs up button on the video. You're listening on audio. Thank you so much as well. If you would, leave me a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get Locked On Braves. I would appreciate it. Thank you so much for all the support you give me here in Locked On Braves. And thank you so much for being an everydayer. And to the one person who commented about how the intro is too long, there you go. I tried to shorten it up as much as I can. But I'm excited about today's episode, getting into our outfield preview episode. What I think is going to be the best outfield in all of baseball in 2024. Before we do that, though, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers, join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. And we got a lot of people in here in the chat section as well. Live with me, I see Nick, Mauricio, Golden Child, Austin, Brennan, Jeffrey Humphreys in here as well, Miguel, Leland, Peter. Sorry to hear about your car accident you're in. Hope you're okay. Prayers certainly to you. Hope everyone is okay there. Chris Fields, Brian Willits in here, the wild one. Sean Finley, Alan Daniel, Rich as well, Joshua, Pat Stockton. Thank you so much for joining me here live. I know we'll have some others trickle in as well. Nick Harvey, Fernando Terran in here. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll continue our position preview this week going. Yesterday, we talked about the infield spots. If you missed that, make sure you go back and give it a listen. Today, we'll talk about the outfield. Tomorrow, the pitching. And then obviously, we'll have our mailbag episode this coming up Friday. But let's start with the outfielder. Let's get into the outfield. And let's start by looking at last year, where the Braves were tied with the Astros for the most F-WAR among outfielders in all of baseball at 14.3. The next closest to them was the Dodgers at 12.8. Now, a lot of that was due to Ronald Acuña Jr., as the Braves right fielder led all of MLB with 8.2 F-WAR from the position, or right fielders. Acuña had 8.4 F-WAR. The Braves had the fifth most F-WAR in center field at 4.3. The Mariners led the way there at 6.1, obviously with Julio Rodriguez. Michael Harris, though, was third among all center fielders with 3.9 F-WAR last year. And he got off to the worst start of just about anybody in baseball last year. I mean, you remember the first 2 months for Michael Harris last season. There were some who were thinking the Braves might need to demote him. A lot of it had to do, I think, with the back injuries he dealt with early in the year. But certainly he turned things around, and at least according to FanGraphs WAR, was the third best center fielder in all of baseball. Left field was the clear weakness last year. The Braves ranked 19th at that position with 1.8 F-WAR, 1.4 of that coming from Eddie Rosario, which ranked 17th among left fielders. But again, center field, right field, particularly carrying a huge load for the Braves last year. And I think they will again in 2024. And hopefully you get a little bit more out of left field with Jarred Kelenic. But like we did with infield preview yesterday, we're not just going to talk about the starters. I really want to dive into the depth at each spot. And it's mostly going to be the same at each spot. But I really want to go into the depth in the outfield this year, which I think is really solid. Look, Alex Anthopoulos talked about the fact that It's hard getting free agents to come in here as bench players knowing they're probably not going to play a lot. So it's really hard to get a star-studded bench unless you are developing players to come up and be that. You're just not going to have, or you're trading for them, you're just not going to have many free agents that want to come to Atlanta because their starting 9 is going to play pretty much every day. So with that in mind, I think Alex Anthopoulos has done a great job of trading for a JP Martinez, being able to bring back an Eli White. Yesterday with infielders, trading for Luis Guillorme or picking him up, trading for David Fletcher, although that was a lot of moving parts in that one. But he's done a good job of bringing in some depth that, it's going to be a drop-off. Pretty much anybody in the Braves lineup is going to be very hard to replace. But I do think there is some solid depth in the outfield this year. Let's start at the top, though. Let's start with a highlight, and that is Ronald Acuña Jr. in right field. He's the MVP, obviously, from last year. Ronald had a historic season, 337, 416, 596, 41 home runs, 149 runs scored, 106 RBI, 73 stolen bases. It is still just absurd to read these numbers every time that I do. And maybe what's even crazier is a 10.9% walk rate and an 11.4% strikeout rate. I mean, the way that he cut down on the strikeouts last year is just truly, truly remarkable in what was a remarkable season. He also had a WRC plus of 170. How do you improve upon that? How do you get better after a season like that? A season like we've never seen before. What's crazy, and I've talked about this before, you looked at his expected numbers, his expected stats from last year, and he actually underperformed. A lot of that due to the fact that he hits the ball hard, but he gets on top of the ball a lot. A launch angle of 7.4 degrees leads to a lot of hard hit ground outs. And I think that's probably why those expected numbers are even higher than his actual numbers, because he hits the ball hard just about every time he puts it in play, but he doesn't always get the best launch angle with those balls in play. And I think that's one of the bigger keys for Ronald Acuña Jr. if he's going to have a repeat season, or if possible, even a better season. It's to get that launch angle up like we saw him do in September last year. And again, something else I've talked about before with Ronald, I think there was a very obvious adjustment in his swing at the end of last year as he was looking to make that charge for 40 home runs. He made a huge change, well, not huge change, but it seemed like there was a more concerted effort to get some launch on the baseball, and it led to 11 home runs in the month of September. His average launch angle was 7.4 degrees for the season. If he can get that back up into double digits, you're going to see more home runs. You're going to see more doubles. It is going to take away from the chance of him getting more stolen bases. But I think if he does that, if he can consistently get under the ball a little bit more and take out some of those hard hit ground outs, there's a chance you see an even better version of Ronald Acuña Jr. in 2024. It's crazy to say after the season that he had that you can see a path and adjustment that can make him even more dangerous. But if he does that, I think you could see a 50-80 season. Again, it might be harder to get to the stolen bases because I think he's going to have so many more extra base hits if he improves that launch angle. But I see a path to 50 home runs for Ronald Acuña Jr. for sure if he's able to get that launch angle back into the double digits and start getting under some balls a little bit more and seeing them fly out of the park. As far as the depth in right field, look, I don't even want to talk it into existence, but if Ronald goes down, there's just no replacing that. And I know people are going to say, what about 2021? Look, that was lightning in a bottle, and you caught it from 3 and 4 different people to try to replace what Ronald Acuña Jr. gives you. Braves just happened to hit on Jock and Eddie and Adam and Soler, all at the same time. And all 4 of those guys had to get going to replace the production of Acuña. There is no replacing him. But I do think JP Martinez, I think he would be the first man up. He likely gives you the best chance at that power speed combo. Hit 15 home runs last year and stole 41 bags in 99 games between majors and AAA. So I think he has that type of potential. Wall could also give you similar type of production to Martinez. Both might be upgrades defensively, although obviously not with the huge arm that Ronald has, but both of them would play very good right field defensively. Both have really good speed. They don't have the power that Acuña has, but given a full workload, I could see them both getting, double digits, maybe close to 20 home runs for JP Martinez and 40 plus stolen bases. But there's going to be a drop off, no doubt about it. But I do think Martinez and what Wall could give you, would be somewhat serviceable in the speed power department. White and Luplow could also be options if the Braves preferred a righty, or what you most likely would see is some sort of platoon option out there with either White and Luplow and either Martinez or Wall, whichever combination the Braves feel most comfortable with. But right field, if Ronald Acuña Jr. is healthy all season long, again, I think there's a path for him to be even better than he was in 2023 and win the MVP again. But the main reason I think the Braves outfield could be better in 2024 is because of the center fielder that they have in Michael Harris, who, oh, by the way, hit another home run on Wednesday. We'll talk about that next. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. If you're really into spring training games, they got money lines for those games as well. I don't know what you do about a 7-7 tie, is what happened on Wednesday between the Braves and Phillies, but you can get in on spring training action. The Braves appear to be catching the Dodgers as World Series favorites. It's now plus 320 to plus 540 in favor still of the Dodgers. One of my favorites that I keep going to is they have the over-under on Ronald Acuña Jr. home runs at 37.5. Like I just talked about, if he gets that launch angle to where it was in September, he's going to blow by 37.5 home runs. And the Braves win total has gone up. It's 101.5. Just a week or so ago, you could get that at 100.5. So all of that over there on FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Also, make sure you visit FanDuel.com/playsafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV Channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV Channels app. I want to remind you again, the rest of this week, we will have the starting pitching and relief pitching preview on Thursday, then our mailbag episode on Friday, and next Minors Monday, we're going to look at the prospect who has the most on the line in spring training, and that prospect is most likely starting a game on Thursday in Dylan Don. So we'll talk about that next Monday. Let's get back into this outfield preview here, though, and let's go into center field, where you have Michael Harris II, MH2. He's had 2 seasons in the big leagues, and he's posted at least 4 FWAR in both of those seasons. And kind of like what we talked about with Austin Riley yesterday, I don't believe we've seen the best version of Michael Harris, and we haven't seen him reach his full potential. Again, as I talked about at the top, he was having some serious back issues at the beginning of 2023. I want to say he had an OPS in the 400s going into late May last year before things started to turn around for him. He was not good for nearly 2 months of last year and turned it around to have an excellent season. He's just missed back-to-back 2020 seasons, just falling short of the home runs in each time. I think he gets there this year. I think he possibly even pushes 25-25, maybe 25-30. I mean, I do think the ceiling is untapped for Michael Harris. I don't even want to put a ceiling on him. I think he could be really, really special. And I think we get to see that in 2024 if he stays healthy. And a big part of this too, if he does move up to 6 in the order, like we talked about the other day where he was batting, I think we see him run a little more. Batting ninth, the last thing you want to do is get thrown out with Ronald Acuña Jr. up at the plate, but you move him up to 6 in the lineup, he's going to get more RBI. He's going to get more runs, and I think you're going to see him be a little bit more aggressive on the bases. That's why I think he could possibly get to 30 stolen bases if he is batting 6th in the lineup. And look, I think that's probably the fine spot for him, and Ozzy's been fine in the 2-hole. I've gone on record before as saying I like Ozzy more down in the 5th, 6th spot in the lineup where he can drive in runs with his what we know is 30 home run power. If you wanted to put Michael Harris in the 2 spot, I think he'd be absolutely fine there as well. Something else to consider with Michael Harris last year, we talked about the drop in strikeout rate for Ronald wasn't quite as significant for Michael Harris, but it did go from 24.3% to 18.7%. And after hitting just 238 against lefties in 2022, he hit better against lefties in 2023 with a 301 average against them. So he took one of his biggest holes in his game from 2022 and made it a huge strength for him in 2023. We'll see if that holds up. Sometimes those splits can be kind of finicky year to year, but that is a huge improvement against lefties. If he can increase his plate discipline a little to raise up that walk rate, which is just around 4%, which is not very good, but you get into a little bit more power and be more aggressive on the bases. Michael Harris is looking at an all-star, possibly even MVP type of candidate with his elite defense as well, where he's likely going to win a Gold Glove in center field someday. So I am really high on Michael Harris. He is still really, really young. He's about to go into his age 23 seasons. I'm really excited for what Michael Harris can do and what he looks like in the future. And behind him, like I said, Martinez, Wall, as we talked about in right field, solid backup candidates there that can do similar things. I think they both would be solid defensively. Both give you a little bit of power. Both give you good speed. Drop off obviously wouldn't be quite as big between Acuña and Wall or Martinez as it would be between Harris and Martinez and Wall. But I do think they can give you, similar type of production. Left field. This is the big one here. You got Jarred Kelenic, who was brought in this offseason to hopefully be the everyday left fielder in Atlanta for a long time. Alex Anthopoulos did a lot of maneuvering, took on a lot of money to get him. So they must see something in the former top prospect. He was a top 5 prospect in all of baseball entering 2021. Something to keep in mind with Kelenic. He didn't play in 2020 in the middle of a pandemic and what should have been a big development year for him. Then he played just 30 games at AAA in 2021 as the Mariners called him up because he got off to a hot start at AAA. They called him up, and then he fell flat on his face in his professional debut. He saw his K rate go from 15.4% at AAA to 28.1% in the big leagues. Clearly someone who wasn't ready for big league pitching. Now that has continued. He has not learned from that and made that adjustment. In 86 games at AAA in 2022, he did bring that number back down to 20%. But then again, at the MLB level, it shot up to 33.7%. And this past year, it was 25.6% at AAA and 31.7% at the MLB level. So, despite missing that year of development in 2020, it's now been 3 seasons since that, and he still isn't catching up at the big league level. In fact, even at the minor league level, his strikeout rate is getting worse. So that is something the Braves have to figure out. He's got to be able to cut down that strikeout rate, even somewhere around 25%. But I think for somebody like him, it really needs to be more down into the low 20s. He's still just going into his age 24 season. But that is something the Braves got to figure out. They got to get him to be able to make more consistent, solid contact. And despite the fluctuation in his strikeout percentage, he's maintained a solid 10% walk rate wherever he's been. If he can do that batting, in the bottom of the Braves lineup, and he can continually get on base, at a 320, 330 clip, even like he did last year, if he can do that at the bottom of the Braves order, he's going to score a lot of runs. With his speed, he's going to score a lot of runs doing that. But it's a huge year for Kelenic for sure. Look, I'm not going to be I'm not going to be too harsh on him this year if he doesn't reach maybe the potential that we would like for him to see in his first year in Atlanta, but you definitely want to see some improvement. I think even based on last year. Look, if he did what he did last year, I think most fans would be okay because you don't need a lot from Jarred Kelenic this year in this Braves lineup. But I really want to see some improvement, some better plate discipline as the year goes on. You know, the Braves have already said he's going to play every day to begin the year. What does he look like against lefties? But it's a big year for Kelenic for sure. And if things don't work out there, you know, Martinez, Wall will be solid backup options as we talked about. Again, you could do a platoon with White and Luplow. I've been saying Luplow is my pick there because he has a career 833 OPS against lefties at the big leagues. But White does bring you some speed, and he showed improvements last year at the plate before injuries once again derailed his season. So, again, I think it's going to be another big year in the outfield for the Braves. Even if Kelenic doesn't hit, if things don't click for him, just with Acuña and Harris, I think the Braves had the potential to have the best outfield in all of baseball. But I do think Kelenic will get things going. I do think, you know, we will see him make some improvements. I don't think the Braves and Alex Anthopoulos do as much maneuvering as they did if they didn't see something in him that they thought they could unlock. So I'm putting a lot of trust and faith in the Braves front office and the Braves coaching staff. But again, it's just all that they did to get him. I got to believe they saw something that they can help unlock, who was once, you know, one of the best prospects in all of baseball. So I'm really excited to see what Jarred Kelenic can do. I'm really excited to watch this Braves outfield in 2024. All right, next we'll get into some notes from Wednesday, which we got to watch on TV. Braves and Phillies, an outing from A.J. Smith-Shawver, a dominant outing from Ken Giles. We'll discuss all of that here next. Get all the best deals with Gametime, and don't worry about buying tickets to your next event because you can get them at the last minute with Gametime. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They have killer last-minute deals, as I mentioned, all-in prices, view from your seat. Please do not buy a ticket to a baseball game or really any event unless you look at the view from your seat. You can do it right in the Gametime app. Especially don't buy a ticket at Wrigley or Fenway unless you know the view from your seat. And you got their best price guarantee as well. Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. All-in prices show your total upfront price. I love that. I cannot stand secondary sites who they show you one price, you go to checkout, and next thing you know, the price is way much more than you thought. They give you the full price up front. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. Gametime has deals right up to the start of game day and even an hour after it starts. It's a place to find last-minute seats, find exclusive flash sales, and the Gametime guarantee means you'll get the best price, guaranteed. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app now, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON20 or Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Want to remind you again that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. All right, we finally got a game on TV on Wednesday. I sat down, enjoyed every minute of it. The Braves making an epic comeback in the 9th inning to finish the game in a 7-7 tie. Know you all love to see that. But hey, the Phillies didn't win. Neither did the Braves. But A.J. Smith-Shawver got the start on the mound. Came out throwing 98, 99. All looked great. Was more 96, 97 in the 2nd inning. And this is one of my things with A.J. Smith-Shawver that I want to see. Can he hold velocity throughout? We're obviously not going to know that in a 2-inning outing like this one, but even seeing him coming out like we did last year, we saw him pumping upper 90s, and then an inning or two later, we'd see more 94 to 96s. That's something he's got to figure out, is how he can either know when to hold back some in the tank and use it when he needs to, because you can be effective at 96, 97. But can he maintain that velocity deep into starts? That's something I need to see from AJ Smith-Shawver. You're not going to see that on Thursday. I know he has that upper 90s heat. Can he save it for the right times? Can he maintain it throughout 5, 6, 7 innings? Best pitch I saw him throw on Thursday, he threw a couple of nasty changeups to get some strikeouts. I thought that was his best secondary pitch. Being quite honest, the curveball looked awful. He had no command, no feel of the curveball on Thursday. It either hung up in the zone or spiked it in the dirt or just had no idea where it was going. They kept throwing it, which this is why you take spring training results with a grain of salt. I think it's a pitch that he was throwing to try and get a better feel of, and certainly a pitch that he wants to work on, that, it could be a big part of his arsenal, but it wasn't very good. And he certainly has some more work to do. I really didn't see many great sliders either. He gave up a couple of home runs, which has been a big problem for him at the big league level. I think the big key for him is being able to throw the curve and slider in the same spots consistently. It seems like to me, either the breaking pitches he was throwing were either belt high or higher in the zone, or they were just nowhere close. The JT Realmuto bat is a great example. I know Lindsey Crosby pointed this out on social media as well. Got ahead in that count, but then threw a couple of breaking balls that were non-competitive pitches. They weren't close to the strike zone, so it didn't tempt a veteran hitter like JT Realmuto. He got back in the bat, got a pitch up, hit a home run. It was a really good swing on maybe one of the better breaking balls that he threw down and away, and JT just is really strong and made a good swing on it. But it's because the pitches before that were just not competitive at all is the reason that allowed JT to get back to have that chance. So that's the big key for me with AJ Smith-Shawver, is having more consistency with the breaking pitches and being able to maintain that velocity deep into outings. Still something I want to see from AJ Smith-Shawver. Maybe the highlight of the day was Ken Giles, though. Came in, struck out Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, and Alec Bohm. 1, 2, 3 inning. He got 6 swings against his slider. All of them were whiffs. The fastball velo was 95. It's not upper 90s like it used to be, but that slider sure was devastating on 3 really good hitters. So Ken Giles with a great first outing in a Braves uniform. Other takeaways from the game, bench battle. You had Eli White. He had a good outside swing for an opposite field double. He walked and scored a run later as well. Luke Williams had 2 hard hit balls, including one that went for a double that he snuck by Bohm at third base. JP Martinez entered the game late, had a nice bunt single in the 9th inning to keep the rally alive, and later led to the game-tying run. So he's done some good things early. Chadwick Trump had a 2-run home run. Also had a single in this game. I said yesterday when we did the infield preview, we talked about catchers. I said I'm very comfortable with Chadwick Trump as my 3rd catcher. And it just seems like the guy gets it done. Whenever I watch him play, he gets it done. So I'm very glad the Braves were able to get Trump back. That's most of my takeaways from the game on a Wednesday. On Thursday, it's a split squad game. You're going to have Dylan Dodd pitching in one, Spencer Strider in the other. And the rest of the Braves' home spring training games will be streamed on Braves.com. There's only 8 games left the rest of the way that we won't have video of. Now, if I remember correctly from last year, these games that are streamed on Braves.com, it's not the greatest camera angles. They're obviously feeding in the radio guys, which I do love, but it's not the best camera angles. I want to say it's a high home angle, which should give me some good looks at Nacho Alvarez taking ground balls at shortstop. Nacho did come into the game, and I saw somebody in the comment section saying that Nacho has had a good start, and he has. I believe he walked a couple of times on Wednesday. Took 1 ground ball at shortstop. It was an easy lollipop type of ground ball, so nothing really to talk about there. But either way, a lot of the Braves games are going to be on some sort of streaming TV service the rest of the way. Also saw somebody else in the comment earlier say we are John Smoltz days away from opening day, and we are 29 is today's opening day countdown. Yet another retired number for the Braves. John Smoltz wore it from 1988 to 2008. I hope I don't take heat for saying this. Smoltz gets too much hate from Braves fans than he deserves for his announcing. What do you want the guy to do? He is a national announcer. He can't just go on there and give the Braves all the praise in the world. He has to try to remain neutral. So I like John Smoltz as an announcer. I think he's pretty smart, especially when he's talking about the pitching side of things. And I think he takes a lot more hate from Braves fans than he deserves just because he doesn't go on there on national games and talk glowingly about the Braves. Look what he did when he came in and did some games on Bally and how well he spoke of the Braves. I think he takes a little bit too much heat from Braves fans than deserved. Felipe Alou also wore it for the Braves, number 29 for the Braves from 1964 to 1969. All right, that will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Thanks so much for making it here to the end with me. I see Kyle Christensen in here, Joshua Wyndham, Nicholas C., Julie C., Ecuadorman in here, Little Lee, Jeffrey still in here at the end, David Sherman, Matthew as well, Mauricio. Thanks so much. Brian Willits hanging out here till the end. We got up over 100 viewers in here live with me, David Sherman as well. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and joining tonight. But that will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Again, tomorrow we will be doing our pitching preview. Really excited to talk about that. Mailbag Friday coming. And then next Minors Monday, the one prospect who has the most to lose in spring training. We'll discuss all that coming up in future episodes. Make sure that you follow us on social media at shortstopball, at LockedOn_Braves. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, on the road to 10K by opening day. And make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast. And we will talk to you next time.